Welcome to the Voices of Young People podcast, brought to you by Springtide Research Institute. In each episode, we hear directly from young people as they respond to our research and share about the issues impacting their lives. As sociologists and researchers, we see a new story unfolding for young people, one that moves beyond traditional institutional boundaries and requires careful attention to the inner and outer lives of emerging generations. At the intersection of being and becoming, it's the Voices of Young People.
Hi, everyone. This is the Voices of Young People podcast brought to you by Springtide Research Institute. And I'm your host, Dr. Josh Packard, the Executive Director of Springtide. And this is season 3 of the Voices of Young People. And in this season, we're hearing directly from the mouths of young people, unfiltered. So no interviewer. And we've had just such a variety of a really diverse array of young people who have been talking to us this season, sharing all about their religious beliefs and identities and practices. And this one is no different. Towards the sort of older end of the age range that Springtide focuses on, we focus on 13 to 25-year-olds. Today is Matthew, and Matthew is 24 years old. And he's actually a seminary student pursuing ordination in the Unitarian Universalist Church. Matthew's going to talk about his definition of the divine, how he understands the nature of the divine, the various spiritual practices that he seeks to cultivate, and why he looks up to other faith leaders who demonstrate care and great listening. Those are two of the two of the traits of relational authority that we outline in our State of Religion and Young People 2020 report. When combined with transparency and expertise and the others, these are the ways that we make a real impact, and Matthew is here to share a firsthand account of what that looks like. So I'll sit back now and we can listen. Take it away, Matthew.
Hi, my name is Matthew Villarreal. I am currently a student at Eden Theological Seminary in St. Louis, Missouri, and I just turned 24 and am looking forward to being ordained in the Unitarian Universalist Church soon. I am a Unitarian Universalist, and basically we are a diverse community. We consist of people from all different walks of life. Some might just identify as Unitarian Universalist. There's also plenty of others who might be Unitarian Universalist and Christian or Muslim or Jewish, Hindu. We really accept people of all kinds of faiths. And what unites us really is our belief that everybody has inherent worth and dignity, and we should treat people with respect. We're all interdependent, and none of us are isolated from each other or our environment, including the natural environment. And we are called, whatever our faith tradition is, to be of service to the world. Personally, I also consider myself to be somewhat spiritually fluid, which means for me, I don't necessarily identify in any one particular tradition, but whatever I find useful from all kinds of different traditions, I apply into my own spiritual life for gaining insight and wisdom on how to live. So the way I personally view God, and this, because Unitarian Universalists are so diverse, there would be people who see it differently. There would be some who don't believe in God at all. But for me personally, the image that comes to mind when I think of God is light. Pure light. I think of God ultimately sort of as an energy. At least that's how it appears to a lot of people in the mystical traditions, is as like a bright light or a loving presence and energy. And for me, I think of God as the intelligent presence that is in all things, and that is love. So there's, for me, being a panentheist, there's nothing that isn't God. God exists in all of us. God exists in everything, in all of nature, in the universe. And the essence of what all of that is love, including ourselves. And so because of that, we're called to see the divine in each other, and respect one another and fight for justice for when people aren't being treated right. And we also, because we ourselves have God within us, that means that we're capable of loving other people and being kind to others. So I think of God as an energy that exists in every single thing in the universe. So as of right now, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, I haven't really been attending church. But in normal circumstances, when I'm out in St. Louis, I attend Elliott Unitarian Chapel, which is a wonderful community. I enjoy the services there, of course, and I'm also part of a positive psychology covenant group that I really enjoy because it helps me to focus on how I can cultivate values like gratitude and forgiveness and things like that into my life. And I'm also part of a young adult group there. And we have some really fun conversations about spirituality and theology. And also here in Greeley, whenever I'm here, I also will often go with my mom to First Congregational United Church of Christ, which is where she goes. And that is also a beautiful community where I think they really take in the intellect seriously, but also balance it with a healthy sense of spirituality and of just it's a pluralistic, inclusive Christianity. One of my most amazing spiritual experiences, it was a really interesting synchronicity. I actually had a dream where I was watching this documentary called Around the World in 80 Faiths. And they were and one of the scenes they were talking about Calvinism, and there was like a little map that showed the different places where the guy was traveling and everything. And I woke up and I had almost kind of forgotten about the dream at that point, but I was looking through an old textbook and I happened to come across one of the resources, and it was a video called Around the World in 80 Faiths with Peter Owen Jones. And I was like, well, that's interesting. I had a dream about that last night. So I went online and I looked up this BBC documentary, and some of the scenes were like what I saw in my dream. There was a little map showing where he went, and he talked about Calvinism in one point, which I also saw in the dream. So I just kind of took that as a sign that, like, okay, I need to watch this documentary because there's something here I need to learn. And it really did teach me a lot about the different faith traditions in the world. And to me, it was sort of like one of the most amazing signs I ever received. So my spiritual practices include daily prayer is a big one. I pray for about 30 minutes every single day. And Yeah, that's one of the things I do. Another spiritual practice that I cultivate is there's one where basically you look at the events in your life and you see like where they seem to be leading and examining those events closely, whether they're recent or they've been a pattern throughout your whole life. Follow those to where you think spirit is leading you. Let's see, some other ones. I also sometimes I try like mindful eating too, where I just slowly chew my food and kind of appreciate it in gratitude. Really pay attention to the texture, the taste, all of that, and kind of cultivate mindfulness that way. I read all kinds of sacred texts from different religions. So I enjoy reading the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran. There's a lot of different spiritual practices that I do. And I would say the thread that runs through them is that I cultivate them to try to discern where spirit is calling me as an individual and where spirit is calling us as a collective in the way we live and treat each other. And I participate in justice work sometimes as well. I've attended some of the protests that have been going on recently. And I try to find opportunities to advocate for people whenever I get the chance. I worked for a while as a volunteer with Missourians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty to try to advocate for people on death row. So there's a lot I do to cultivate spirituality in my life that I found useful. So for me, Unitarian Universalist, one of the ways it impacts me is in its openness to all different kinds of faiths. And that I think gives me a way to think about looking at different traditions and seeing how their insights can lead me to live a better life. And can help all of us really to do that. And for Unitarian Universalism specifically, one of the things that I love first is the universalism part of it. This idea that there's no angry divine judge who's going to punish you for eternity if you mess up. And I think that's the wonderful part of universalism. And it's something we try to apply too by recognizing even people who do horrible things are still human and have basic rights. And we need to remember that even when we're doing things like fighting against injustice and calling out evil when we see it, we still have to remember the humanity of everyone involved. And again, two of the emphases that I love as well is that everything is interdependent. I think we can't ignore that anymore, especially with like the global warming crisis and the depletion of forests and all of that. We need to recognize how interdependent everything is and inherent worth and dignity of everybody. That is also very, very, very important. And so just remembering those things in our daily lives, I think allows us to look beyond ourselves and to help the whole world really to become a better place. One of the people I really envy with how just loving and compassionate and yet also concerned with justice he is, the Dalai Lama. He is such a wonderful person. And he's someone that I think, like, some days I wake up and I think, okay, how am I going to be kinder to people today? How am I going to show compassion? How, if somebody, ticks me off, how am I going to manage my own anger? And I think about the Dalai Lama sometimes and just how patient and kind and compassionate to everyone and everything he is. That's really the kind of person that I aspire to be. And I think if we could all emulate a little bit of his compassion and his concern for justice and his level of forgiveness and things of that nature, I think we could make the world a lot better and have peace with each other. One person that I know who has been very helpful and a really good mentor and example to me in my spiritual journey is Ben Konechny, who is one of the pastors at First Congregational United Church of Christ. He really has a compassionate air about him. You can tell that he really cares when people are struggling and that he wants to help people to grow in their faith journeys. And he's also a very good listener. He understands what you're telling him when you tell him the kind of things you're going through. And he really likes to help people. And one of the things too that I like about him is he also has a lot of insights from his own spiritual journey that he offers when people have questions that are really helpful. And I appreciate the fact that he's willing to share some of that, without pushing it on anybody if they don't want it. But if somebody, has a question or wants to receive that insight, he is also willing to share that and be vulnerable at a level that's comfortable but not invasive.
Visit springtideresearch.org to hear more voices of young people and to download the State of Religion and Young People 2020 report, which is free thanks to a very generous donation. Today's show was produced by Marta Abuaji and TJ Birnbaum, with original music by high school student Christian Unthank. Special thanks to our guest today and to all the young people whose perspectives and insights make our research possible. Remember to find us on social media at WeAreSpringtide and share your own stories with the hashtag ShowUpForYoungPeople. Thanks for listening.